What is up, comic fam, and happy Halloween. It is Sunday night, so that means this is at week's end. The spoiler-filled look back at this week in comics and so much more. But before we get into any of that, check this out. Let's give a big thank you to the channel sponsors, Big Time Collectibles. Thank you for sponsoring the monthly Legion Loot giveaway box. If you're in the market for any amazing store exclusives by some amazing and talented artists, be sure to check them out. That can also help you out with some of those high-end, hard-to-find ratios as well as those FOC orders. So check out BigTimeCollectibles.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Also, big shout-out to Justin's Comics. If you need any books cleaned or pressed, be sure to hit him up over on Instagram. He can take care of you for as little as $10 per book. He is super fast with the turnaround times, and he can submit directly to CGC and CBCS for you. Use that promo code WeAreLegion and take advantage of that buy two, get one free promo we have going on right now. So let's get started. Let's bring in the other legs of the tripod, my co-pilots, my teammate, my heterosexual Canadian life partner, Chris the Comic Vet. What is going on, brother?
Not too much. Happy Halloween. Sounds like your kids are still enjoying that sugar high.
We turned into a blast. As soon as the intro music came on, they both jumped up and ran over here, started dancing. The wife started recording them. And I don't know if y'all can see me, but I was sitting here doing it with them. Yeah. And they're actually not on sugar high right now. It's just,
okay.
Just late. So let's bring in our 10-gallon love child all the way from Texas. New guy, Ryan. What is going on?
What an intro, man. Well, tough act to follow, but I'm ready to talk some comics, so let's do that.
All right, well, let's do that. How was your Halloween?
Oh, it was good.
Awesome. Very good. Awesome. Let's say hey to the
didn't
chat.
really do much, so.
That sounds like a
Sorry.
good Halloween. Yeah. We have Rob's Fat Sacks up in the chat channel member. What is going on? That's one thing we can talk about tonight toward the end. Talk about some of the books going into the giveaway stuff. Because I wrote down all the names for all the channel members and everything before the month ended. And I'm going to try to do the live drawing next Sunday for the October stuff. But anyways, Flo Dameron up in the chat. What is going on? Mr. Chip Gettler is up in the building. We are Finn's dad. I'm going to try to. Here, there's only one Finn dad, and I ain't it. I have 2 tuitions to pay already. Yeah. We got Blue Hellion Comics. Dan up in the chat throwing those custom emojis. I love it. Mr. DJ Links, what is going on? Also throwing those emojis. Sup emojis. Phil, how are you doing tonight? 10-gallon love child. Yeah. Ryan knows, and that's all that matters. What is going on, Mars Comics? Hope you're doing good tonight. Happy Halloween. I'm 2 weeks behind, LOL, so I have a stack of like 20 books. Yeah, I can't imagine getting too far behind. I would just call it quits, I think. The cover collector is up in the chat. What is going on, Sam? So hello. So I don't have a clue how the turnout's going to be tonight with it being Halloween, and it's definitely like people are trick-or-treating the farther west you go. That's still happening. But still, y'all are here. Y'all are available. So we're going to talk some comics. Hold on.
Cool.
Finn's over there hammering his toes. Yeah, so it might be a little noisy, but we're going to roll with it.
Cool.
I was talking to Chris before we started, asking if there's anything that happened this week or any kind of news or announcements or anything that you wanted to bring up, discuss, or talk about. No, the only one that I could really think about that I was excited about was Michael B. Jordan announced that he officially has his writers for his project, and the official working title is simply going to be Val Zod. So I think that they also announced that it's a show. It's not a movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
So Tom Taylor's Superman from Earth 2 from the New 52 era is getting his own HBO Max property. Again, I can't remember 100 if it's a show or a movie, but either way, the writers have been hired and the working title is Val Zod, which I think is smart because there's a lot of people out there who are not up and up on the difference between the Superman, and you'll have a lot of people that'll complain about race swapping Superman when that's not the case on this one. So that's definitely a good route to go. So hopefully a lot of people will show up for it because I think it's going to be awesome. I mean, I hope it will. Michael B. Jordan is a phenomenal actor, and Val Zod's character is he's like a pacifist in the comics. You know, it was hard for Kara to get him to swing his fists even when it was like a life or death situation. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, two different characters entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the news that I saw came out today via the rumor mill. How true it is, I don't know, but I saw late this afternoon after the Buffalo Bills won today, just a heads up, that Jim Carrey potentially has been tapped to play MODOK in the MCU. How true that is, I don't know, but I thought it was interesting what they would use MODOK in at this point. Who knows, but yeah, Jim Carrey is MODOK.
I trust Jim Carrey with my life.
Right.
Yeah, good Canadian dude.
What is up, Ruben Guzman? All the emojis or White Tiger comics, cartridges, and collectibles. Another channel member his channel will be getting fired up in January. He's really starting to prime people. I saw he put up an intro video, and then today he actually posted a screenshot for his top 3 FOC picks for this weekend. He was telling people in the caption to be on the lookout for more posts like this. So there'll be kind of accompanying and pairing an FOC video that he'll be doing once a week when his channel fires off in the beginning of January. A real yes, man. I see what you did there. That was a funny movie. The scene when they traveled to Nebraska, I think it was Lincoln, Nebraska, and they went to the chicken processing plant, and they're standing there while the woman's explaining the process, and he just goes weak in the knees and faints. Like, he's always been good with the physical humor stuff. You know, it's kind of a shtick. He's still got it. How's it going, Ignacio? I'm glad you could be here. See, what was another thing that I mentioned? There wasn't nothing really crazy coming out of this week. No,
I feel there was one more thing of 3 that we were talking about.
No, I think I actually had them down on a little notepad. But yeah, there's no huge things. Before this, I was in a conversation about where there was a headline news article like insinuating that DC was lying about the increased sales for their Superman title after the announcement of John Kent coming out as bi in issue 5. There was an increase in sales for issue 5, obviously, and a demand for secondary printings for 1 and 2, and that news got shared. And then the people, I can only assume it's the people that are very against the idea of it for whatever reason. I mean, everyone has slightly different reasons and stuff, but there's stuff posting now like Superman sales shockingly low despite what DC said, when they never stouted that the Superman book is trending number 1. You know, Superman, like issue 1 for Superman Son of Kal-El was number 15 on the list the week it came out. You know, it wasn't like a huge number 1 seller. That's not what they're insinuating. They're insinuating that this book that's been selling right where Superman books have been selling, what they expected, saw an increase. But now everyone's taking that and running with it. Oh, they lied. Oh. And I'm like, no, dude, you're just falling for this bait headline. But whatever. You know, they're not stouting that this book is now because he went by the number 1 book. No, they just caught a lot more attention. And yes, the sales are going to go back down. Like, will they go back down to what they were before? Who knows? Because you might lose some readers over this. You might gain some. I mean, only time will tell. But where it stands now, it is selling better than it was initially. But that's not going to stay. It's not going to stay constant. You just did a big publicity run, and you had an issue 1, then a publicity run. So you're going to see it do this for a minute. But when it comes down to it, despite what's going on in the story, Tom Taylor don't miss. The man hasn't missed yet. I don't expect him to start missing now. So I'm still on for it. I've been seeing
it was a good
Jonathan
book,
Majors
so
well
I have
before
no-
Tom Taylor took him over.
I've lost no interest on it, so just keep writing a good book.
Say,
I'm convinced to my core, and we mentioned it. This kid, this Jay character, is going to be a villain. There's no way that this is going to be.
the potential love
into the-
interest.
Yeah, there's no way it's going to be right off into the sunset stuff. And we did talk about it in the conversation where you can easily see where having the decision to make John's character bi kind of leaves room to backpedal if need be. You know, it can always be I was experimenting at a young age, or and you can just ride away from it and him be with a girl and not even address it again. They're really protecting their brand at the same time.
Let's be honest. 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 comic books we read features a non-straight character anyway. So like this to me, it's almost not even a talking point. I get that it's a character that wears, the hope emblem on his chest, but still, it's much ado about nothing as far as I'm concerned. I think the bigger story is that the love interest is potentially a villain. Never mind the fact that Jonathan is, bi or however
bisexual.
he wants to identify. This is nothing. Like, this is something I grew up with. The North Star coming out of the closet back in the late 80s, early 90s. Then it was shocking. This is nothing to me. Literally nothing. like I said, every 6 or 7 book I read features a non-straight character.
Unless you're reading Tynan books, and 100% of the books you read, because there's creators out there that are doing that's kind of like part of the direction they're trying to push things.
Right, they're MO. I get it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's very every something is killing the children now. Every Batman book that Tynan writes, every Department of Truth, all these incredibly hot books, all have the same content in it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really a non-issue to me, and it is interesting, and y'all know I do love a good debate. I do love having these conversations with people, and to a fault sometimes. I'm sorry if you're somebody who's mentioned something in front of me before, and I just started a conversation you weren't ready for. Not saying you weren't capable of having the conversation, you just weren't buckled up. Because I get excited to talk about stuff.
Most of the time, these characters, it's not in the forefront, other than the Batman franchise title a couple issues ago in the secondary story.
Yeah, I brought up the fact
Ghostmaker. That was it. That's the only time it's actually really been prevalent that way. Otherwise, it's just, this character is not straight.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about that character that don't involve anything around that,
Yeah, that's just
I did bring up
a bad idea.
Why is it that people are flipping their lids over DC doing something when DC's had people of all representation for years, using Jackson as a prime example? Like, even in the Young Justice TV show, Jackson and Aqualad Jackson has been bi or gay for years, but DC didn't promote it. Like, they decided just to promote a character because their job is to sell their books and to promote stuff, and it's a lot easier now than back then. But Marvel's been doing this forever. Like, since 2015, 2016, they did the whole Marvel Now thing. They literally have 2 characters, one named Snowflake and one named Safe Space. And I brought that up from the New Warriors that they did. Like, nobody was flipping their lid about that. It was a non-binary character, and they were trying to own those attempted derogatory terms for your thin-skinned, your Snowflake, or Safe Space. You can't take the heat. And I mean, you're getting that same thing in Tynan's Batman right now, and more people are not complaining about Tynan's Batman than are for me at this point that I talk to. Or either I just kind of try to find an argument, but the fact that I was critical over the last 2 issues where Scarecrow's big plan and the whole Unsanity Collective is to take away people's trauma, because if people could just not experience trauma of life, they could be their maximum best self. That's not life. That's not life. And Scarecrow's taking your trauma out of this trauma machine that he stole from them, because they didn't get rid of their trauma. They just stored their trauma somewhere else.
It's a weak idea.
Throw it on the city. It's the same concepts. There's nothing new. None of this is new, but no one was flipping their lid over Marvel because they're not reading it. They're not reading it. They're just, it's going right past them. But when they get a chance to talk trash about DC doing something, they jump right on it. But it is comics, so the bottom line is what matters. So if it doesn't sell, you won't have to worry about this issue because they'll write away from it.
Yep.
Yep.
I just like to go on there for a minute. I hope I can get the new Elseworld Batman book. I'm not sure which one that is. They have the Imposter issue 1 that came out already. Reptilians got about to have issue 5 come out, but there's a new one coming out, the Blackest Night or something, where Jock is doing the entirety of the book, where Batman's trying to get a prisoner.
3 issues.
Yeah, 3 issues. Batman's trying to get a prisoner to GCPD in a blackout, and it's supposed to be a no holds barred battle the whole way. And I'm like, dude, this is
It's going to be a black label.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm very looking forward to it.
Yes. Maybe you'll end up in a refrigerator like Kyle Rayner's girlfriend. So that's how Green Lantern's girlfriend went out. Yeah, I actually used that as a thumbnail for a What's in the Box early on in my channel's history. The picture of the refrigerator, contorted dead body in it. What's in the box? I got some kickback over that. What's going on, Tricky Trapster? Ben Riley's missing out on all the big adventures. Yeah, I'm excited that Ben Riley's back in the helm. Dark Knight. Yeah, so Darkest Night, I guess, is the one he's talking about that Jock's doing. Yeah, I'm excited about that as well. They're not called Elseworlds anymore, and I wish they would bring that back. Since there's an omniverse, since there's a multiverse, there's no need for Elseworld titles anymore. I guess they just kind of understood that. You can write any story you want, and I mean, it's pretty more or less, it's pretty much easy to understand. It's not a continuity book. It's not a monthly title. It's just a mini series here or there. So that everything that you read that's DC Comics exists somewhere inside of the multiverse, whether it's up to writers down the road if they want to go back and use it and place it anywhere or whatever. But anything that ever happened in DC Comics exists somewhere in the multiverse. So there's no reason to have an Elseworlds banner. That being said, since the inception of the current Omniverse, there's 2 centers of it. There's Earth 1 and another Earth that they haven't gotten to or dove into yet, but the other Earth is titled Elseworld, and they haven't unpacked that yet or revisited since announcing it. It's the same plan, isn't it, Flo? Yeah. Minus the trauma bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were when they went that route in Titans. I was upset. I'm like, why are they're just pulling this from the current book I'm reading? So whichever one finishes first is going to spoil the other one. Is that how it's going to work? What is up, Pocan Joe? Mars Comics. I do want to share this with you guys. I know y'all probably saw it on the Instagram, but this past Wednesday was me and my wife's anniversary, and she rocks.
Oh, Vigilante.
So I came home to this. So this
Very
DC
cool.
Universe series line is just fantastic. They do so many like offhanded characters you wouldn't see. I mean, they have the Gentleman Ghost, Mr. Terrific, Commander Steel. They've got a Parademon in the Jack Kirby style of it. Now they have they had some like this shop bought an entire collection of these. They have easily close to 100 different ones, you know. And there was a Steppenwolf one from his first appearance back in New Gods, and it was like the green and yellow, and you had like the heavy black lines like Kirby did them. But then they also had like a New 52 Steppenwolf. So they've gone through different eras with characters and stuff. So it's super cool. She knows me well.
Yeah, Vigilante just screams 80s to me. His whole costume, pure 80s.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I like the fact that James Gunn did not feel the need to change it for this upcoming part in Peacemaker. He's really staying true to these characters' style and stuff. And yeah, I think it's awesome. You know, you can go back and listen to interviews with Alex Ross early on and how he paints the realism. And somebody asked him about the way that he depicts their costumes that look so classic and why doesn't he try to make them look realistic? And he said, because they do. And there's no reason to change them. All you have to do is just bring them to life. And yeah, I mean, his art speaks for itself after that. We got Cole up in here from the Comic Burritos. Team Jacob, bring back the pet. Dude, I'll tell you what, I was definitely Team Jacob until that trailer for the Batman dropped, and this Team Edward all the way at this point.
Yeah, my first question when Ryan showed up backstage was, "Where's the bed?"
I was antagonizing him. So I actually went back to the shop after she picked that up, and because I had walked around with that in my hand and I had put it back, and she knew that I wanted it, so she snuck back up there and got it for me. So I went back the next day and grabbed the other one that I saw there that you just really don't see, and that's that blue suit Aquaman. You know, when have you ever seen a figure made of that costume?
Never.
Never. You know, never. So I definitely got that. One day I'll put it on display with the book, you know. So I mean, they did good with it. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I'll quit boring you guys. Y'all ready to review some books?
So I wonder how long it is before they when we see the Momoa one and how different it's going to be compared to that. Are you reaching for Jason Momoa there?
Yeah, I've got all the Snyder figures right here.
Yeah. No, I meant because
Oh, the blue
he's
suit?
supposed to wear the blue suit in Aquaman too, right?
Yeah,
I was
they
just
got
curious how much they're going to change it.
Oh, it's vastly different, but it looks cool. Yeah, it definitely looks cool. You want to show off some books you got?
Sure. All right. Task Force Z or Z? How should I pronounce it? American or Canadian? Task Force Z.
I thought Zed was spelled Z-E-D.
Well, that's just anyways. Crossover. Cover of the week.
Yeah, that is fire.
The Long Halloween special. Yeah. DC versus Vampires. Looking forward to talking about this one. Mr. Bromeo. His artwork featured on Detective Comics 1044.
That's pretty
Another
cool.
great cover. Great cover. Yeah. Wonder Woman Day issue 1 is just basically a reprinting. But Wonder Woman Tempest Tossed issue 1 because of Wonder Woman Day. IG 88, the one shot. Black Widow 12. Franchise 77. The House of Bullying, issue 1.
House of Haze.
Dark Blood 4. My LC has gotten a copy of the Department of Truth issue 12 for me.
Nice.
Pretty cool cover.
Yeah.
Are you caught up on the reading of those yet?
Not yet. Spawn, what is this, 323? Yep, 323. That's a great cover, too.
It is.
The second printing, and probably the last time we're going to see a second printing from Image for a while, of the three of us we all loved, Primordial.
Hell yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's my haul.
Point, I actually pronounce, my whole household pronounce that horse-like animal that's striped zebra.
Zebra. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't go around saying Debra. No, Zebra. Zebra.
I don't say General Zod, but, to each their own.
Zod. Apparently that's Rob's name. His wife came on camera and was like, here's Zod. Right, wait, what?
What did you say?
So his name's Zod and the safe word is pineapple pizza. What is going on, Free Energy? All right, Ryan, what did you read this week?
That's a great question. So how about we only find them when they're dead? That was awesome. Deep Target, Harbinger, all three of those books, awesome stuff.
What was the third one you mentioned?
Harbinger.
Harbinger.
Sorry, I'm not Canadian.
No, I think he actually said that right. Harbinger.
Sorry.
That's it.
Hey, you can't be switching alliances here. I read Chew and Aquaman, Detective Comics 1044. Adventure Man #6, Task Force Z, and House of Slaughter.
Nice. I was trying to get to Task Force Z and DC versus Vampires digital because I feel like I'm definitely getting a issue 2 for DC versus Vampires because there's a foil Alan Scott Green Lantern cover for issue 2.
Fascinating.
It's the local comic shop day event that's coming up in November. So it's just like this red background with a side profile of him yelling, and he has like a construct surrounding his body kind of close to him, but where it gets to his face, the fangs are in the construct.
All right. Do you want to talk about DC versus Vampires?
I like to show off my books first, if that's okay.
Okay. All right. Well, you're getting me all excited.
Quit rushing me. So I picked up Detective Comics that cover A. Primordial #2, which I know this is available for some and not available for others, so we'll probably kick that one back to next week so that everyone on the panel gets a chance to read it.
Thank you.
Batman The Long Halloween Special, which was my blind pick of the week going into the week. Definitely not my read of the week. Not even sure why it exists, to be honest with you. Deep Target #1, another book that doesn't have any necessary reason to exist, but was actually fun. House of Slaughter #1 that I haven't even wasted a bag and board on. We only find them number 9, which was fantastic. This was the kicker issue. It was the kicker issue. Yeah, they got
That's a great cover, by the way. Very original cover.
Yeah, I love it. Simone DeMeo still crushing it. I got Unborn #2, which delivered as well. This is such a good sci-fi read. That crossover #9, and after issue 8, I was really hyped up and excited because I'm like, this book is finding itself, and it's continued to find itself. This was another good issue, and they really, really played with the dynamic of what a comic book is in this issue, and I loved it. I actually had another 2 issues in a row now. I dropped the book in my lap just to chuckle, and not because of the content, but because of the creativity going into making it. And then I picked up that Captain Harlock #5. And I got a few copies of those. I think I showed these off earlier in the week, but I've mailed some off already. And then I have my copy with that Comic Clear backer board on it. There's a wraparound. And I bought so many because I went through my LCS and bought the difference to unlock the ratio variant, which was the Virgin variant for that John Jang exclusive. So one of those will be included in the Legion loot giveaway. So there'll be some Jane goodness in there. Probably not the only Jane goodness. He's a space pirate, Cole. Space pirate, Captain Harlock. It's from Ablaze. So yeah, Chris, because neither Ryan or myself read DC versus Vampires. Tell us loosely the premise of it and why we should be reading this book.
First of all, it's my read of the week.
Oh,
I thought it was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed it. Like I almost enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed Lonely City last week. So I really like the DC stuff for me, although there is a book that I read this week from DC that to me it's trash. But
what is it?
Task Force Z.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, but DC versus Vampires, basically there's a society of vampires that's been living for a couple hundred years now, behind the scenes, not being troublesome, but they're under the lead of a queen. And the queen is a little bit of a menace to her own people, but it exists. Either way, the queen has been assassinated and has died. And what's been happening is behind the scenes, the vampires have started taking out important people. Now, one vampire has found out what's happening and decides that he needs to tell someone because he doesn't want a vampire war with normal people. And that includes all the DC superheroes and supervillains as well. So the vampire finds his way into the swamps, and he's approaching the Legion of Doom. And when he gets there, the Legion of Doom has been annihilated by vampires. And there's basically one that's left that hasn't fully turned, has basically been ripped apart, and it's Lex. And Lex is Lex as he passes away. He basically gives this vampire for lack of a better term, needle full of stuff that could potentially stop people from turning into vampires. Is it a reflection on today's society?
Terrible real estate.
I was going to say it's no. Well done. So, but I thought maybe this is a play on modern society. But anyways, the Lex gives this vampire and says, "Oh, by the way, when this saves the world, you make sure that you tell him Lex Luthor gave it to you," and then he dies. So Lex being Lex. So then the vampire makes his way eventually to the Hall of Justice, and as he's making his way to the Hall of Justice, other vampires and other superheroes are attempting to take him out, i.e. Green Arrow was on his tail and trying to kill him. And as he's approaching the Hall of Justice in daylight, he's covered up. People are attacking him, trying to rip his cover off and everything so that he's exposed to sunlight, which happens. Anyways, Green Lantern saves the day on the footsteps of the Hall of Justice and brings in this vampire and basically starts to nurse him back. And Green Lantern and this vampire have a conversation. Green Lantern's like, "Listen, what's going on?" And then the vampire says, "I need all of the Justice League for this. I need to tell everyone." And Green Lantern says, "Well, everyone's off planet right now. I'm the only one that's here." And then one of the Wonder Twins, the male Wonder Twin, his name escapes me.
Zan
Yes.
and Jan or something like that.
Yeah. Joins the conversation, to which
Turn into a bucket of water. He's the lame one, right?
Yeah.
Like there's one badass and one lame.
Yeah. Anyways, Green Lantern finally gets this vampire to start telling him what's going on and what he's been through and everything. And at the end, the Wonder Twin walks out of the room, and the Green Lantern looks at him and says, "There's nothing worse than a snitch." And out comes the fangs, and Green Lantern rips this vampire apart and kills him and fries him on the spot, exposes it when the green light from the ring fires up. There's so much UV in it, it actually cooks the vampire alive. So
Was Green Lantern a vampire?
What's that? Green Lantern has been affected, and Green Lantern is now a vampire. And the final scene is Aquaman walks into the room, and Green Lantern has shifted back to his normal self. And Aquaman looks around, and they're having a couple words saying, "Hey, I need some help out here." And Aquaman finally says, "Oh, this room really is dusty." And that's how the issue ends, with this big twist that the Green Lantern has been changed to a vampire
for the next issue.
That would explain the cover. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see Green Lantern being bitten or turned, and he's mean. Let me tell you, man, he's mean in this book.
Which Green Lantern was it?
It looked like it was Hal.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'll pull open.
So there's the cover for local comic shop day. Like last year for local comic shop day, they did a bunch of foil variants of existing books and stuff. So it looks like I'm assuming this is probably going to be the B cover for issue 2. So I guess that's Hal. I thought it was Alan because his hair looked blonde on there, but I guess it's going to be Hal constructed up with the fangs on there. I thought that was just an amazing cover. So if you're in one of those places where you don't have access to your local comic shops, you're not able to get those books through your local comic shops, you can order them online. Like Big Time Collectibles, they are the channel sponsor. They have free comic book day books available for pre-order on their website, as probably most any shop with an online service. So be sure to check those out. Don't miss out on them. There's some cool books coming up, and it really helps your local comic shops out.
The one thing I failed to mention is the epilogue that happens. Mark, if you could blow me up, I'll just show Green Lantern.
Absolutely.
That's him as a vampire and dealing with the Wonder Twin. So I guess he ends up wiping out that Wonder Twin as well.
Yeah, let's see. What does he do to him?
So he puts him in some sort of container and then has a cup of coffee. And basically, this is the part where he starts letting the vampire have some green UV and kills him. But the epilogue is the vampire actually didn't make it to the Hall of Justice first. He went to the Batcave. And what he did at the Batcave is he dropped off one of the needles to Alfred.
Oh, sweet.
So Batman is now aware of what's going on, and that's how the book ends. Yeah, I thought it was a real fun read. I had very low expectations for it. I thought it was going to pale in comparison to Deceased, the 7-issue run that we had late last year, earlier this year, that kind of concluded. And it's a 12-issue maxi series. It is by Tynan, but I thought it was really, really good. It was a real nice twist to see Green Lantern come out as at least the first issue villain, and to see Lex be Lex even on his last breath. Let the world know that it was Lex Luthor that gave you this antidote. And it's cool now that the very last part is Alfred has one of the needles, and that Batman's now aware of what's going on, and that apparently Green Lantern just lied through his teeth to the vampire, saying that everyone was off planet.
How long have you been waiting to use that pun?
Well, it's 9:42 here, so it's been a little bit.
All right, Ryan, what's one that you read you want to talk about? I'm definitely going to go back and grab that copy of that DC versus Vampires, though.
Yeah, I had. It sounds like even lower expectations than the comic vet here, because I really like vampires. Don't really work for me unless they work really well, you know. So that was one I was like, I have no interest in. But you made it sound kind of interesting. I read Task Force Z, man. I found that like the tone was so poorly constructed for it. Like it served no real purpose. I got nothing out of it, and it just didn't connect with me. It's got Matthew Rosenberg on the writing. He has like a sense of humor. I would kind of almost compare him like in the same territory as like Dan Harmon and stuff. He's got like this quippiness that's like, I don't know, it's somewhere between like Marvel and like Rick and Morty, but the whole book, like the premise and everything is set up to be super serious. Like they're using the Lazarus resin things to like basically bring back like Man-Bat and Bane and stuff, basically keep them on the edge of death, and so they can kind of give them a Scooby snack and they'll like party around for a while. But it's like so serious in tone, but then you have Red Hood and they're like cracking all these weird jokes and being really quippy, and it just like completely destroys the tone. And to me, the book didn't work that well.
Yeah, he's not really the joking character ever.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Freeze shows up.
Doesn't last long though, does he?
No. Who was the other guy that was there?
Bane was there. He also died, right?
Arkham Knight was Arkham Knight, like a zombified Batman.
That was one of the better elements of the zombie stuff.
But
like Arkham Knight, like crawling along without the legs and stuff, that was pretty good. But the rest of it, meh.
Yeah. So basically, this task force gets sent to this warehouse to do something that will basically just give themselves a test run. And unbeknownst to them, Mr. Freeze is there, and Mr. Freeze just wipes out the whole crew. Basically, it's like maybe a 4 or 5 page battle. Mr. Freeze just mops the floor with them.
Freezes and breaks them. I flipped through the book. I'm like,
I don't think I'll be picking up the second issue.
It was like a super weak Suicide Squad kind of thing.
Exactly.
I was not really into it. Yeah.
But yeah, No, I didn't enjoy it.
Detective though.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I thought it was good for what it was. It was like a whole lot of like, I don't know, like it just felt like not a lot happened within all that, but it was still good. Like it was enjoyable to read. It was very like compelling, Kind of reminded me of like a tight 90 like horror movie,
Yeah, so it didn't move the plot forward much at all, but right now with Fear State going on, there's not much room to move plot in books outside of the main title, unfortunately. When you have events that are crossing over, it kind of freezes the the stories everywhere else. And this book is a victim of that. So you basically have two characters that are a part of the greater story frozen in time. And the way that they did that is they have Mayor Nakano in the sewers trying to get away from an assassination attempt in these sewers that are not stable anymore, where they're kind of crumbling and stuff. And Batman is down there trying to get him out of there so he doesn't get killed, because he still kind of believes in him and his mission as the mayor. So the whole issue is Batman and Nakano on two opposite sides of a crumbled wall, and Batman debating if he should open it to save his life or not. And we see that the Vile character has some of his eggs, very Hellboy 2 style, starting to hatch on both sides where Batman and Nakano are. So he just has to make a judgment call and rip the wall down. And in the attempts to save him, who's covered by these little hatchlings, by hitting him with an excessive amount of electricity and a taser, kills him. So the book ends with him attempting to resuscitate him, which he's going to resuscitate him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was a perfect misuse of time, It was like the least affected book by Fear State that I've been reading that's been touched by all that. So I really appreciated the fact that they were able to just like, hey, look, we're kind of going to waste time, but it's just going to be like fun and compelling to read. Because you really get into it, and you start to feel like those moments ticking away. Like, how is Batman going to resolve this? But all in all, it's kind of frozen in time. But again, it did a better job than Nightwing or Catwoman did with managing whatever Fear State's doing to them.
Yeah,
it's that time of the year. Yeah, it's that time of the year, and there's a lot of supernatural horror elements happening in comics right now. And the backup story to this was called Arkham Rising, and I actually did take the time to read it. And it was actually pretty interesting. It kind of did a little flashback scene in the beginning about the construction of the first Arkham Asylum and some of the crap that went on with it, with like the workers dying and disappearing. And then it kind of showed one worker was I don't have the one from in the car, but I have this one.
Yeah. Okay.
And the people of Gotham not wanting the new Arkham Tower erected and where the previous Arkham was destroyed, and kind of fighting and pushing against the name of it being Arkham because of all the stigmas that are attached to it now. But it was kind of cool, and we see the construction workers and they're working at night, and one of them just kind of snaps and goes crazy. I got my wife on camera sitting there booty dancing, trying to distract me. I was
What happened right here?
not a TikToker, but it was fun to watch. It was a decent read. I'll be happy to get, when it comes to the comic books, I'll be happy to get through the Halloween time frame here we're in.
Yeah. Next, everything will be covered in snow.
Yeah, tomorrow is the first official day of Christmas season. Woo woo!
I had to go pick up some groceries earlier, and like today, and they were already, the candy aisle had been switched to Christmas candy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
You should just pass out. You should have passed out. We will be at my job starting tomorrow. I put it on WBBQ and start rocking the Christmas jams the day after Halloween. I don't play.
As a kid, I hated that.
Yeah, but you know what? There's me who gets to make that decision at work, and there's everyone who works for me that has to suffer. So I love it. I love it. I think that would be a cool direction to take, but like the dynamic with comic books, Ignacio, is like summer events or pay-per-views, and Detective Comics is not even like Monday Night Raw. It's that Thursday night SmackDown. Like the main Batman title is Monday Night Raw. Detective Comics is like the Thursday night SmackDown, and then the events or the pay-per-view where they allow people to die or do big things and stuff, but we'll see. I know he's not dead, though. He's going to bring him back. What's another good read from this week?
Did y'all read Deep Target?
I did.
No.
Yeah, I picked that one up. What
That
a
book was like
curveball.
Yeah, I went into it. I was like, I'm probably not going to like this. This sounds like the stupidest concept. And I started reading it, and I was like, this is dumb. And then, like, they kind of do that reveal, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, And then the end there just kind of, like, all hooked me in. I was like, this is this seems really fun. You know, it's dumb, stupid fun, but like it actually kind of worked. They had good chemistry.
Yeah, it starts off with these people operating this machine out in the middle of nowhere. They're making sure that they're shutting down satellites so that they can do it with nobody watching them. And they're turning on this machine that's basically, it looks like the machine serves as a temporary portal to the past to bring objects to the present. You know, it just opens up a little time door so that they can kind of reach into the past. And they're kind of, you're seeing, it's kind of cutting to them working on that machine a couple of times throughout it. But you get to who you think is Green Arrow on a boat jumping into the water with some scuba gear heading down to Atlantis to confront Aquaman. And they get there and a battle starts right off the bat. But it's cool because he's sneaking into Atlantis. And as soon as he gets into the throne room, you hear Aquaman on the throne. He goes, I had it drained of water. That way you can breathe down here to make it easier for you. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. He knows he's coming. He knows he's there. And then they get into the fight. And it turns out that they have switched bodies. Oliver Queen is Aquaman and Arthur Curry is Green Arrow, but they still look like themselves. They look like they changed clothes, not bodies. It's kind of Freaky Friday with these two characters.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird way to do, because like I don't know. I think my natural instinct was that it was going to be like they were born into these lives as these other characters, you know, but like they have memory of having like swapped, you know, like they know who they are and what their legacy is. And so like it's this weird thing of like, how did they get swapped? It's I don't know. It's a strange but interesting mystery.
Yeah. So they're buddies by the end of it. They fought for a little bit, and they're heading off together to go solve this mystery. And the shadowy organization that was trying to operate that machine is kind of keeping tabs on them, whether we know they are or not. That they're kind of keeping tabs on Ollie, or Arthur Ollie, the Green Arrow one. And the guy who was running that machine, he was hanging in one of the little cutscenes to him. He was hanging out in the past, and when he turned the machine on to come back to the present, a little dinosaur kind of got caught in the machine and went all David Cronenberg's The Fly, and he is now a reptile-like creature.
It made me think of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah. Very
like, oh, this is kind of fun.
But in all sincerity, I don't know if I'll pick up the second issue of it or not. I don't know how much I care. It was definitely a fun enough read that I don't regret buying it, but I don't know. I'd rather probably not pick up issue 2 and just try to read some of these trades that I got.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed it. I mean, I also think a big element of that is like I went into it with no expectations, and I don't really know too much about either of those characters, you know, so it's easy for me to just forget like who they are and just let them like meld into this team that they are now, because I thought it was pretty interesting. There's like no real point to it.
If you don't know who they are, or if you do know who they are, when you read this, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like it's its own thing, which kind of threw me off. I thought like, because Oliver's kind of all over the place right now. You know, he's got the checkmate thing going on. He's over there in the Justice League title. So I saw him moving over here, and I was wondering how he's just kind of expand his reach into the DC continuity right now. And that's not what it was. I was hoping we get some Atlantis stuff, but it looks like we're moving away from that pretty quick, just to some random shadowy organization. I mean, there's a lot of this going on right now with Leviathan and Checkmate, and it's just I don't know, but it is a fun book. It's, you know, we're using some characters that aren't, well, Aquaman's not really being used much right now, but Green Arrow's all over the place. I do want to bring this book up real quick, and then I want to put it down. That book was trash.
What book was it?
House of Slaughter.
Oh.
Hate to say it. We know Justin Birch, who's doing the letters for it. This is no way speaking on his work. Again, he's doing the letters. He's not writing it. But that book has no business existing whatsoever.
I liked it.
Pointless and lame.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was relatable. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. So I like that Eric had a cameo.
So it was relatable. It was
It was
related.
it was relatable because I was bullied a lot in high school. Like I'm 6'1", 230 now, but when I was in high school, grade 9, I was probably all of 5'4", 90 pounds. So I got picked on a lot, and just never fit in. I grew up in a poor part of Toronto, so I was actually a minority where I was going to school. So I could relate to the fact that I was an outsider when I entered high school, and when I walked out of high school, when it was all said and done, I was a different person, obviously. But I could relate to that, and I found it interesting that Aaron was bullied. Not only is he bullied inside the house of slaughter, he's actually bullied going through the exercise that he was as well when he dealt with those 3 girls, basically acting as the monster, and they were chasing him, but they were relentless in like their language with him. And then he was tasked with showing a new person around the house, from the Maison de Butcher down in from Louisiana. And I experienced that too, when a freshman showed up when I was in grade 10. I had to show him around and all that kind of thing, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know this. I have a very unpopular, like right now, a lot of people are dogging on this book, and so be it. Like it doesn't stack up to the first 15 issues of Erica's run, but this is, to me, it's a different animal. And I personally think that this is not going to be Aaron's story throughout. I think this is going to be a House of Slaughter story that features different monster killers throughout its run. When Aaron eventually catches up and his demise actually happens, I think we may have a shift in story to a different character. I thought it was interesting that obviously Aaron thought the young man that he was showing around was cute or whatever. We all know that what Tynan does is what Tynan does. We knew that this was going to happen, and it has that little bit of a twist ending where flash forward to like, I don't want to say today because at this point Aaron's already dead, but flash forward a number of years later, Aaron's actually hunting the man that he had a crush on for that first day that this book takes place in. I thought it was good. I'm not saying it was great.
What did it add to the something is killing the children?
Well, it got a little bit of a sneak peek as they were peeping through the house, looking at what was happening politically. Not everything has to be about something is killing the children.
That's
it's
what
not called. It's not called something is killing the children.
Universe. What did it add to? I'm just saying that because this is
it introduced 4 new characters. The 3 young girls that Aaron had his run-in with in the first act of the book, and obviously the young man from the Maison de Butcher. I forget that young man's name is escaping me right now.
Harper's up in the chat. What is up, brother? For those that didn't read this, and don't take this the right way, Chris, but for those that weren't excessively bullied in high school and escorted around a new 9th grader when you were in grade 10, that can't relate to this book because that's a very specific story that requires to relate to this book. So I understand that. There's been books like that I did just hit me a specific way because of my life experiences. But for the rest of everybody else that don't fall under that banner, this book really didn't add anything. Like you'd expect to see new characters when you're entering a house that, like I expect to see new characters in almost every issue. There's how many different people with how many different masks? I don't expect 98% of them to matter or mean anything. They're just people in the house. But what this book is it's going to be Aaron's journey to kill his first boyfriend love interest. That is a black mask. And he was brought into he's a white mask. He was brought into the house, and Aaron, being a black mask, was told to escort him around this or that. And Aaron said that this is going to be the story of me having to kill the first man I ever loved. So that's what this book is. That's what it adds to it. It's adding some weight to Aaron eventually through this, so that when you look back and go back to his death, maybe it'll have more meaning. But they're giving Tinian, who hasn't done an LGBTQ plus character yet, out front in the Something is Killing the Children run, took this series to do it because that's kind of his thing. There's nothing against that. That's his thing. So that's what he's doing with this. So it's going to be a love story between Aaron and this dude and why he has to kill him.
Like to break it further down, essentially this is just fodder for Aaron when Aaron's character is introduced in television. Like I can totally see them introducing both Erica and Aaron. Not to say Aaron's going to be with her in Wisconsin as the first events of Something As Children takes place. But when Aaron gets introduced, I can totally see a few episodes of Aaron's backstory.
Mhm.
And then when the first season ends, or however, when Aaron falls, we're going to be more invested in the character for more of that shock value for when it happens.
Yeah, it seems like they're doing some comic book post structuring, just to kind of keep it running. And if it is going to be like, if it does turn out to be a TV show, and if it does turn out to work, it'll give more weight to their books that didn't exist going into it because they didn't expect it to do anything when they first wrote it.
Yeah, like I can remember a conversation we had that you thought Aaron's actually an interesting character. Oh, he's dead. Like they bring in this guy to be the cleanup crew. Oh, he's dead.
Well, my thoughts were he wasn't interesting. My argument going into this was that he's been a non-character the whole time. That this whiny, complainy, annoying character showed up and he goes out like a sack immediately. He doesn't show any merit. He doesn't show any prowess. He's not formidable at all. And then you spend some flashback issues showing us that that's the way he is the whole time. He's annoying. He's a pain to have to read. He's just a bane to everyone's existence. He's around because he's just a cold, wet blanket that they're stuck carrying. And then they're like, oh, this is perfect. Let's make a series about him so we can read more about it. It's just a horrible character to try to
I will say, like, that's my biggest issue with this book was, like, I don't care about Aaron. Like, he showed up, like, whenever he first shows up, it's a cool character design. But then every time we see him after that, he's getting beat up by somebody. And then we go to this book, and once again, we're introduced to a character that's just, like, constantly being beat up. And, like, it's not a question of bullying at some point. It just becomes, like, this is very difficult to watch because why do I care about this character?
And I don't even think
it's
it's
really taking any of his own,
That's
like...
exactly what bullying is.
No, I would understand that if you were in a school. This is not a school. This is the Order of St. George. They literally took a little girl, put her in a barn, and said, live or die or get beat up by this mom. This isn't bullying. This is necessary for survival.
I think that's where the second part of this is important, though, because this is the formula that succeeds today, right? We saw it with manga and anime. They love a good, like, school of children, so you can just constantly churn out characters and do this ongoing thing. And there's all these, like, built-in dramatic rivalries and stuff because there's love and life on the line, And so we saw it happen there. Now we've seen this Marvel has the Wizard book, and DC has Teen Titans Academy, and they're once again just able to, like, churn out characters in these, like, kind of like school-based environments where you're getting snippets of everybody's, like, real life and their school life and how those two things, like, mix and blend and blurs the line between, when you're at school and when you're at home and what reach a bully has at that point, So I think this book is tapping into something that's going to sell very well with the general population because it has, like, all of those built-in elements that we see in a lot of pop culture these days. But for me, it was just like, I really don't care about Aaron. And I feel like the way that they've doled out the structure of this Order of St. George and everything has just been really frustrating because they, like, don't tell you anything for, like, 4 issues. And then in the 5th issue, they just give you, like, this big info dump. And it's like, you could have laced all that into, like, the boring parts of those last 4 books, and it would have made them all a little bit better.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the bullying is I don't consider that because you have the heads of these houses watching this happen. Again, in a different environment easily, but they're watching it happen and having conversations about how Aaron's not going to survive if he doesn't toughen up. Like this, they're not in a normal business. They're not sitting there trying to create businessmen or employees of the future. No, they're trying to create monster hunters to save lives, including the life of the monster hunter themselves. So the fact that they're watching these events happening and allow it to happen to a certain point, like it's a necessary structuring of the house itself. And like, go back to Spartans and the way that they trained and weeded out the weak. Were they bullying kids, or was that part of like what their goal was? Like the goal of this house is to create monster hunters that can do their job.
Right. Now, I would agree outside when they're in exercise. Absolutely. That's not bullying. That's just Aaron getting his rear end handed to him. it's inside the house itself where none of that stuff is supposed to be taking place. And the conversations between those girls again and Aaron is so much to the point where he cowers and buttons his lip, and the young guy that he's walking around then speaks up on his behalf because he's one that is not going to take it. So he's going to stand up for him, even though he's in a different class, different mask, however you want to, call it, with that, all the different factions within the House of Slaughter and the Maison de Butcher. That's the part that I was coming from, not the exercise part in the first act. It's within the house itself when he's starting to walk the young man around, and the young man's like, well, I want to go here. And Aaron's like, well, you're not supposed to go there, but he does it anyway. And Aaron just toddles along like a lost puppy behind him because I get that he has that crush on him. Yeah, it's the interaction afterwards then that I consider the bullying part.
Well, was it issue 16 that Aaron attempted to be the bully of Erica, and she was instructed to, in the house, just kick him in the nuts about it?
Yeah.
So in the house, it is allowed. It's not only allowed or permitted, it's encouraged. Like they want these different masks to have these dynamics with each other because it promotes that rivalry where they're not sitting there off trying to kill each other. They're trying to be better than each other. And I've said it before, and it's from that movie Whiplash, but the two most damaging words in the human language is good job, because it stops people from trying. And they're the opposite of that in this. They want them to be pushing each other, and they want to be the top dogs. It's a badge of honor. It's just that dynamic. But
right. I get the whole point is trying to man up all their monster slayers, and especially Aaron in this case, because he doesn't necessarily have that type of personality. Yeah. But as a reader, what I saw was, and him cowering and not standing up for himself, is him taking it like he's being bullied.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm not arguing that that's not the same exact thing that I would consider bullying myself outside of this environment. In this environment, I wouldn't consider it that. But to Ryan's point, I think you read it perfectly right. I mean, I completely see that. But I think, and I'm just saying that I would let it ride in this house, where I wouldn't let it ride in other environments, just because the nature of it. If this was a Spartan army, y'all wouldn't have anything to say about it. It's the House of Slaughter. I wouldn't have anything to say about it. That's what it is. If it's in a school setting, in a public place, that's not acceptable, and that's when.
One question for the both of you: will you be picking up issue 2?
Yes. Yeah. If for nothing else, man. Like eventually, I have no plans of keeping my Something Is Killing the Children run whatsoever. And keep in mind, I am somebody that I try to grab stuff and hope that it increases in value to use as giveaways and kickbacks. So the worst case scenario for me is I just purge them in giveaways. It's extremely popular stuff. A lot of people enjoy it for reading or collecting or just specking on. So that's the kind of stuff I aim for. So I'm not losing anything buying these books. And I do better about reading floppies than digital, and something that it's a hot topic book. I want to be able to read it so we can talk about it and debate about it and argue about it, because it's fun. So I'll definitely be picking up issue 2.
Perspective is everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Did anyone Eat the Rich are both on the same tier for me?
I've been calling that book trash from day one.
Oh yeah, but I read it because it's a conversation piece.
Exactly. Did anyone else read Crossover 9?
No, I didn't even realize it came out this week.
Yeah, I went through it.
Well, it says Image, so I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know where those books stand right now. They're in a weird place with their.
I was excited for it next week, but yeah, I didn't even know until y'all started showing books, and I was like, oh, I guess that one came out this week.
Nobody's making him do that, Ignacio. That's his decision 100%. So no, I wouldn't be bullying, but it's definitely a hot topic.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a fantastic read. So we're getting more into it. Orion for short. His dad is that crazy religious nut who bombed the comic shop early on in the series. We found out that he's claiming to know who the creator killer is. The detective duo from Powers that we saw in the last issue who tased Ellie and brought her in. They started their line of questioning with him, and that was actually the best part of the entire issue. That 2-page splash right there. Go back 1 page and read the very last panel.
what Ellie's words are?
Yeah.
All right. No children in the room? Okay, fuck it. Let's just do the powers thing.
And then you turn. All right, so I guess it was a panel before that. She was sitting there talking to him. Are we about to do the powers thing? And she explains to them what they do in their own comic book, where they do the excessive back and forth talking, and and then you turn the page. And let's just do the powers thing. Then you turn the page, and Donnie does the powers thing, where it was hilarious. It was so good. But from that point, like from that perspective, where they're playing with the genre and what the book is and what the book's capable of, was awesome. We had a couple of cool cameos, which I'm not expecting at this point, but they're awesome to see. Savage Dragon was in there when Ryan first comes into the lockup from the big battle from the final issue of the last story arc. You see a lot of people going into booking and stuff, and Savage Dragon was in there, so that was awesome. But we get a little bit more information. Oh yeah, that's Scott Snyder dead. But we'll get there. But so we get a little bit more information on who the bearded man was in the cell. That I'm expecting that it's going to be Donny Cates himself. So apparently, the government agency has been taking cues from this crazy high person who's sitting there trying to write these comic characters' future, and it didn't go out well. So they're kind of on the fence about what they want to do about him or listen to him or this or that. So we know that it is a creator. We know that he's getting trashed in order to create. He's not doing it sober. This crazy old bearded coot who's always drunk or high. I can't remember how they referenced it, but we got a little bit more about that person. And then at the end of the conversation with Ryan, it might be, but the conversation with Ryan and the government agent, they're trying to get Ryan to go talk to his dad to get some information out of him, and he claims to know who the killer is, the creator killer. He doesn't give us a name or anything. But then after that, the powers unit gets called back in, and they said that they were on a scene of an occurrence at a con, and Scott Snyder is laying dead on the ground, and the very last page reveals how he died, and it was with a freaking batarang. And they're like, we don't know what this is, though. And they hold up a batarang. I'm like, dude, that is awesome. So you have the powers detective holding the murder weapon without gloves on, contaminating the evidence.
Right.
Yeah. They're just to expand on what Mark said about a few of the cameos here. Mark, if you could blow me up.
Absolutely.
So Mark touched on one of my favorite all-time Image characters is the Savage Dragon. But they do throw in, if you can see right here, that's Wolverine being arrested. And a little bit further down here is Ultron, already fried. And there's a couple other cameos that if you take a look in the background on what's going on, in the bottom corner there, you can see the green for the Savage Dragon.
That was like Zealot in the forefront.
Right.
Yep.
And and here, I thought this was a fun a fun book. I like where it's going. I like where it's gone since Chip Zdarsky did his one shot in it. And I kind of wish this is what we I get that there had to be storytelling, but I kind of wish this is what we got with the first arc. No, I know the big battle issue, was it 6 maybe? The big battle issue, that was good. That was really fun. But that's where finally we got all these different characters thrown in there. Now, like you said, we're getting the other side of it. We're getting creators tossed into, since Chip Zdarsky, now we have Scott Snyder show up in it. Who's next? Todd? Eric Larson? Like, I'm sure Eric Larson will probably lend his name to it if he's already lent the Savage Dragon to him. But yeah, it's a nice save for a book that I basically had given up on. And if it wasn't for the Chip Zdarsky one shot, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't be where I am with this book anymore.
This past Wednesday was Scott Snyder's comic book class, and his guest this week was Donny Cates, so he got to apologize to him on camera. What else did y'all read?
Go give it to mommy. I read Unborn from Frank Gogol. Issue 2 came out, so that was sci-fi horror book, like with this task force, this futuristic task force. We get a little bit of backstory on 2 of the team members. One we saw fall in the first issue and get infected by one of the creatures, which it morphs his body into this monstrous thing. So it starts off with them having to handle that situation. It was very John Carpenter-ish, like the way it did its thing. But we find out that 2 of the teammates are romantic interests with each other, and they go out like a bang. You see like flashbacks of them talking and whatnot, how one of them's kind of like more logical person that tries to talk people down in a situation, and they were advised against going on this mission because of its importance, and there's no room for talking. And you see where that actually backfires. One has to put the other one down. They end up both going out. But they're still running for their life in their own vessel at this point. Very alien feel in that aspect. You have a kind of a doctor person, a scientist person who's more aware of what's going on than he's telling the rest of them and attempting to get sample back, kind of in the classic tropey fashion. You put it up.
That really sounds like alien sci-fi. I mean, Alien as in Aliens, the franchise.
Yeah.
For Monkey, I'm going to go fill up Monkey's bottle. Y'all got it.
Ryan, did you read the franchise?
I did not.
Okay. So this is Beyond Chapter 3. This is basically the 3rd issue that we've had since the man who's not going to be named on this channel anymore has left. Kelly Thompson and Sarah Pacelli. Sarah Pacelli is one of the creative heads that helped with the creation of Miles Morales. These 2 women helmed this particular issue. It starts off with Colleen Wing and my goodness, Misty Knight in somewhat of a danger room type of environment within the Beyond Corporation, and they're testing Ben Reilly's, testing his fortitude. They're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him, and he's basically dancing around, and they're using live ammo on him and a live sword, and basically he gets his way through everything. And at the end, the Beyond Corporation, the guys that are heading up this danger room type of environment, say, all right, that's enough. And some of the final words is that Colleen says to Ben, you're a little slow on your right side. So you know that they're foreshadowing something for one of the later acts in this book. It's at this point, one of the PR people for Beyond comes out and basically is trying to lift Ben up a little bit, just saying, hey, I need you to stop being a wimp. I need you to be the name that we own. I need you to be more like Spider-Man. And she basically just goes up one side of him, down the other, everything that she feels is wrong with Ben Reilly as Spider-Man, and then basically says, so what are you going to be? Are you going to be what I said you are, or are you going to be Spider-Man? To which his response is, I'm already Spider-Man. Basically saying, I don't really care what you say, what you think. I am who I am, even though we all know he's just a clone. With that being said, the PR lady puts him into an environment where he gets a chance to sit down with a psychiatrist, and basically she starts to ask him about his memories, and he starts talking about things that are very similar to what Peter went through. And then all of a sudden he goes to tell a certain memory, and it's gone from him. And then he kind of says, oh, I kind of have this feeling like it's reverse deja vu. So I don't know if Thompson is kind of spinning a web where Ben is kind of losing memories that weren't his to begin with. And now with his own memories being developed, they're kind of pushing those out. I may have missed something with that, but that's kind of the feeling I got from it. Either way, we finally get a little bit more of a Peter story to see what's going on with him. But after his attack with the UFOs, where basically Ben's suit can handle the radiation or whatever the UFOs have as a weapon, and Peter's suit did not. So now this is why Peter's now laid up in a coma. Aunt May is finally shown up to join MJ, and they basically just, express their love for Peter to each other, and that they lean on each other. And that there's a small cameo at just their two-page story featuring Peter. Is we actually have the black cat outside the hospital peeping in the window. I guess so. Black Cat's kind of curious what's going on with Peter as well. the next scene is basically Ben arriving at home to Janine. And when we get to find out what's going on with Janine now that she's kind of released from prison, but she's still in, thank you. And Janine is still in a lockdown. However, it's within a very amplified type of house. There's a lot of technology, similar to what the Batcave would be. There's a lot of technology in the house. So she's just relaxing, and then basically they kind of go over what their day was like, and they have just almost a moment of romance and then Ben gets summoned that he has to be in the streets of New York to deal with something, and that's when we kind of get this. We get to see that where Janine is stuck, there's also something that can teleport Ben to where he needs to be. So he steps into it, and where he ends up is an alleyway somewhere in Midtown New York where Morbius has wiped out a handful of people. And Morbius doesn't seem to be his normal self, but Ben seems to be recognizing the fact that Morbius is not himself. So I'm presuming they've had an encounter before. If they have, I haven't read it. With that being said, Morbius is basically manhandling Ben, and that's when Ben realizes, yeah, I am a little slow to my right, because at the end, that's where Morbius comes from and puts his teeth into Ben, and that's how the book ends. Now, I'm presuming Ben's suit will protect him, but it's kind of setting up that that Ben somehow potentially has fallen to Morbius for the next issue. So
Well,
again, I like what Thompson is doing. I like how she laid this out. It's pretty straightforward. We're not having one particular villain just constantly blasting Ben the way that we did for 3 or 4 years with Peter's story in the Amazing Spider-Man. I'm enjoying it. It's been a while since I can say that I've enjoyed Spider-Man, even though this is Ben Reilly. It's not Peter at all. Mark, did you get a chance to go through it? You're muted.
I have not. I'm 2 issues behind on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I failed this city. Yeah, I'm not pulling it. It was one that I was just going to do digital,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't hit anything digital this week. Like I had big plans, and none of them happened.
Yeah, it's a good read. It's a slow burn to try and figure out what the Beyond Corporation is doing, other than trying to amplify their stock in the whole Spider-Man name and trying to get Ben out there to be this, all-encompassing Spider-Man that Peter was in his heyday kind of thing, and Ben is kind of being resistant to the whole idea of being Peter. He just wants to be his own Spider-Man. But yeah, I'm curious to see what the lasting effects of what UFOs did on Peter.
What is his health status right now?
Peter?
Yeah.
He's in a coma. They don't touch on it much in this particular issue, other than to show that he was in the coma. It's basically a back and forth between MJ and May and how they are doing. And how MJ is just kind of a little frantic, and MJ's a little frantic, and May is basically saying that, if you need a break, I can stay with him. And it's just the interesting part of just their 2-page story is that we get Black Cat peeping in on what's going on.
Risque.
Drama. Peter always having drama. So what did you think of the long Halloween special?
I just didn't get why it existed.
There's,
Like it didn't add anything. It didn't take away anything. It didn't have it. It was a well-written story, but the story itself was just why, and like there's nothing to it. Like I get it, Gilda's like crazy for Harvey. Yeah, no crap. But what are we doing here? Calendar Man? Like how do you even get out? Like he was locked up in like all Hannibal Lecter referenced by the authorities and stuff, like in the Long Halloween, and I just didn't get it. So the Calendar Man has got together a crew of people and gotten them around because they're stealing they're stealing jewels based on the holidays, and what I mean by that is there's different stones that represent months, like birthstones and stuff. So he's going for gems based on holidays, and they're trying to get ahead of it. And why in hell Two-Face even gets drug into it doesn't even make sense to me. Like, why would Calendar Man care or want him? And he's always like, they play him up like he's turned it into this whole religious fanatic-esque thing that he's got going on with his followers. And it's just, why? Why to all of it?
Yeah.
It was kind of cool seeing Jim Gordon come and ask Batman if Robin could make an appearance for, I think she was his niece in this. Barbara Gordon was his niece. Babs dressed as Batgirl, and Robin showed up to go trick or treat with her. And it wasn't necessarily done in a way as campy as it sounds. It definitely fit the brand of the Loeb and Sale era stuff that they were doing. And he does get pulled away to go work pretty much immediately. But I don't understand what any of it was for. None of it served any purpose. Like, you wait 25 years to do this, or 30 years to do this? Why?
Yeah.
You should have waited 60. So that was my take on that. Yeah, there wasn't anything to it. But we only find them when they're dead. Number 9 had a lot to it.
Yeah.
A lot. Ryan, you want to start us off on that one? What do you think?
I enjoyed it. It was like just a great, I don't know, it twisted the whole story that we've been following so far. And so I don't know, it's just like, how does Al Ewing do it, Like, the way that this is all constructed, it's just crazy that Homeboy's been like running a game on everything. And the way they did that reveal, I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't know where they planted all those seeds, but it totally makes sense.
So they finished the first arc in 5 issues, was it, or was it 6? Because I feel like this is the 4th issue we've had of this arc, and this is number 9. So they had to end that first one in 5 issues, right?
Yeah, it was ended at 5.
Yeah, I have the trade.
Yeah. So coming into this arc, there was a time jump, right? So in that first issue, we followed a crew of scavengers at Scavenger, the dead bodies, and scavengers isn't the right word. They're miners.
Yeah.
They're space miners, and they mine these dead gods for resources because Earth is slack on them. So at the end of that one, the main captain that we follow on like this mission to meet a living god, he ends up going through a god portal, for lack of a better words, and coming out the other side as a dead god. So that's how this arc starts, with his dead corpse in the future. Now his dead corpse has been built upon, and there's like a city around it, again with the cults, and there's like a religious belief system that's structured around Malik, the only person who has met
it's
a
like
living.
it's almost like a temple built as like a connection to his body.
Yeah, there's
like
a
house of
cathedral
worship
built on him, right on his chest. So we have this woman coming in who's trying to usurp the normal structure of things, because like the ultra rich like dying on the flesh of the gods, and this religious fanatic group has got problems that they bring to the table. So she's working for these people that are really unnamed, and she's coming in there to steal this corpse, and these things are ginormous. So she's been working with her. She's coming there like she's a liaison, but she's really supposed to be a badass, and she's shown a little bit of that she is. So she's got some people that are there helping her, and then some people that she's kind of convinced into helping her. And you thought like this ultra security personnel who was stationed there, who was helping her, was on her side. But the big twist in this is she's a fanatic first, and she doesn't even agree with the fanatics because they're not fanatical enough for her, pretty much. And she straight kills our main star, who we thought was our main star, and straight gets her throat peeled right open. And then you find out that the only surviving character from the first arc, one who is on the crew of Malik, like he said, has been kind of running game the whole time. We thought that he was kind of just an errand where he was just trying to say and do what he needed to do and get picked on and get by. But it turns out that he's working his own angles and stuff, and they fly off in Malik. Like apparently, they literally fly off like a god. Like it's got like they thrusters on,
like
fly
Superman.
off, break through stuff. And the religious people that are still there are like, yeah, keep being cultish and trust me, we'll catch up to them kind of thing. But it was some cool turns, cool reveals. I have no clue what's coming next.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of like just great character work going on in this series. Like, they'll be in these like awesome settings, because like they're inside the body of a god, basically. Like, this is their temple of worship. You're walking into their cathedral, and so they're like having these conversations, and the backdrops are just like freaking amazing.
Yeah, Simone DeMeo is fantastic with this. Holy crap. The beginning, when they storm into the office room, you've got the liaison girl, and she's got her muscle with her, and then the muscle that was present there that's helping her. And they walk in, and she screams, "Stop right there!" And before another word said, just bullets flying, heads popping. Like, no, we don't take prisoners, and you don't give these people a second. Like, there's so many like gotcha moments, and like
Yeah.
damn.
It's really cool too. It feels like a different book than the first series, but like not in a different way. Like, it doesn't feel like they changed what they were doing based on like fan reaction or anything. It feels like they just were like, because this one's like very heisty, and that first arc, it's like more action adventure kind of space opera stuff. And this one, it feels more like a heist, and it's cool because it takes place in the future, but it's like 50 or 80 years in the future or something. So it's just enough time that like religions kind of developed around the legend of George's Malik. And so like this cult religion thing has kind of sprung up from the events that end in that story. And then this is like 50 years down the road, and so it feels like a different book. And like you see some of the characters and stuff from the first arc, but all in all, like it's all legend and hearsay that they've built this whole like new society around. And so it's just like a really cool way to tell a story, because you don't see a lot of people like kind of like tracking those long-term shifts. Foundation on Apple, that's one thing that they do a lot of.
I will not have this Foundation talk on here. Yeah.
It's a lot of like sci-fi time jumping stuff like this, where it's telling like these distant segments of story from episode to episode. And so it's just really cool to see that that's kind of a trend going on in sci-fi right now.
Yeah, that's how the books are structured too, though.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's, all that much more referential.
Yeah. So what other books y'all got? Like I said, I did read Primordial. We're going to save this one for next week. So if you're in the chat and you read this, be sure to come back next week. We'll break this down. I'm continuing to enjoy it. That's all I'm going to say without over or under hyping it. I will be picking up issue 3 of that. Well, y'all got any more you want to break down tonight?
Did you read Aquaman Becoming?
I did not. That was on my digital list. Yeah, I plan on reading it. Yeah, that's all I got to say. I like Jackson. He's a cool character. Again, I just hope that's another one that I think is kind of like that first issue hit me like Mr. Miracle did, where we're hitting the like. There's just so much of societal stuff going into comics these days. So much of it. But Mr. Miracle has been one of my favorite miniseries of the year. Like, we talked about how that first issue was really heavy-handed, and we said if they get past this, it should be fine. And that's exactly what it did. They just went real heavy on issue 1 to really structure the character, introduce him to the people that are reading the book, if they aren't familiar with him. And nobody was familiar with this Mr. Miracle, and a lot of people might not be familiar with Jackson. I am. Like, I'll watch Young Justice, familiar with him in the comics. But I don't care about anyone's love life in a miniseries. There's no room for love lives in miniseries. And by the end of that first issue, we were already into the action and the espionage, and everything, and the people framing him and coming for Atlantis. So I'm very excited to see what's going on with Atlantis. And I'm really ready for Jackson to kind of go take more of the mantle role and get Andy in there somewhere, because, that future state stuff and the dynamic with Jackson and Andy was fire. I think we need to get to that in current comics. That would be great.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I mean, I'm the exact opposite of you. I don't know anything about Jackson Hyde. I think just Future State Aquaman's the only thing I know about him. So this has been like a cool little introduction to the character, and they don't really like they pretty much stick to like the action and espionage and all the Atlantean stuff and all that in the second issue. So
Yeah.
I think it's going in the direction that you would prefer, and I'm excited to like. I didn't really have any expectations for it, but it was good enough. I'm definitely going to keep reading because they hooked me into like who is this character and what do I need to know to make this make sense.
Yeah, he's a badass, and Black Manta's his dad. Like that's cool as hell.
Yeah,
And you've read the Future State stuff. The dude's a beast. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
he's got that crazy determination and stuff, and he knows he's not Aquaman, but he knows he's supposed to be Aquaman, but he's not. So you have that cool dynamic again with kind of like I can't fill his flippers, so I have to find my own set of flippers kind of thing.
yeah.
Or shoes, whatever you call them. Trying to pull
Yeah, I
a
really
Chris-
enjoyed the Future State Aquaman title. I thought the like Cosmic Ocean thing was really cool, and like you said, that dynamic, like it was like very action oriented, which is not really what I was. I almost expected a more like Games of Thrones kind of thing, where it would be like a lot of like drama and like royal politics and stuff, and then you would get like these big battle set pieces. But like
that moment you
Future State
realize
Aquaman is just like.
Yeah, that moment that you realize when he was in captivity and they were just beating the hell out of him, he actually wasn't helpless, and he knew the whole time that old girl was about to bust through, just waiting on her to get there. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it was really cool. Yeah, I had a blast with that one. But yeah, I'm definitely we can like looking across DC slate, you can see like where we're in the after era of what would have been 5G. Because the whole point of 5G, what DC wanted to do was pretty much just not shelf and not back burner, but just move these main characters over that have been used so regularly for so long, just move them to the side for a while and just let new blood come in and new characters come in and new generations of character come in and front run for a while. So we're slowly seeing that happening, with Jackson stepping up in Atlantis, with Arthur not being the king of Atlantis, with Jonathan Kent taking over the role, with Nubia running Themyscira right now, with Yara Flor coming into her own. We're seeing that slowly. So some of these things aren't going to hit. Some of these things aren't going to be well received. Some of them are, and it's just the nature of it. And we saw Marvel do this with the Marvel Now age like 5-6 years ago, and some of those characters stuck, some of them didn't. Some of them are still around, just not in a big capacity. And people say all the time they want to see new characters. The unfortunate side effect of that is the growing pains with new characters, because as much as people like to say that, including me, I'm still in love with the classic characters. You don't want to see them change too heavily, and you don't want to see them go away. So growing pains. And I think Jackson is a great character to not have to be bogged down with as much of that, because he's been around for so long. It's one of those natural progression things. Like when Robins grow up and age up and become their own, you can let Jackson do that. He's been around for a long time now. So hopefully this will be a pretty smooth transition with him.
That's it for the stuff I read this week, the books I picked up so far. But I did remember that third piece of news that we forgot about at the top of the show. Timothy Chalamet announced that Denis Villeneuve's Dune 2 will start production very soon.
Boom! That movie was fire.
Right.
Yeah, dude, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Now, man, I was sitting on pins and needles. Like when it dropped, Ryan was the one that first pointed out the numbers. He said, with these numbers that they got on opening night, they're going to greenlight it. They're just waiting for some reason. And they announced it last Monday, I believe it was, that Dune Part 2 is greenlit. So if you have not seen the first part, watch it. And it's not this crazy, no-holds-barred action movie. It is a proper sci-fi drama. Like it's got it all. It's got the drama. It's the gorgeous settings. It's rich with lore and story, and it's got some really cool action scenes when it matters. And yeah, I like a hoorahing for some characters in there. It was
Right.
a blast. Sitting on the edge of my seat, fingers crossed, hoping that people wouldn't die. And A lot of people die. A whole lot of people die.
Right.
But
Even
yeah,
Jason Momoa's beard dies at one point.
yeah, and like spoiler for I kind of got it spoilered. I mean, like it's hard to really call spoiler on something like Dune that's been around and had numerous iterations made. This is the third time that this story has been made into a movie. And of course, the books have been around forever. It was the inspiration for the Star Wars stuff. But I found out about what they do about people that die in the Dune universe that they wish didn't die. But there's also like, I mean, it depends on how much attention you pay. There's one of Paul's last visions that he sees of the Fremen in full gear where you can still see their eyes though. Like you see a character who is dead in like full gear and you can see his eyes and you know who it is because he's very recognizable. And in theaters, when it's quiet as hell, me and my wife both start slapping each other at the same time because we both recognize him. So it was definitely him. And I'm like, how could it be him? And then I figured out like, okay, death is not permanent in the Dune universe necessarily. So that's something to keep in mind. And that one flash forward scene when you see the Fremen in full gear after they've been trained by the House Atreides under their ways and everything, like battling with the Heracles.
Power Rangered out.
Dude, it looked like this. Dude,
Power Rangers.
you see him flipping and flying and cutting and slashing, and he just cuts someone, pulls a knife out and opens his helmet, and it's Paul, and you're like, holy shit.
Right?
Insane, yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. I cannot wait for that second one. I think it's slated to be released October of 2023, is it? Yeah. So, I mean, that seems like a long time, but just bear in mind that there's six DC and six Marvel movies slated between now and then. That's 12 movies that you are going to be excited to see and rave about or complain about. So it's not going to take long to get there at all. Just don't die. That's all.
That's really short production time, though.
Yeah, they probably have the script done. They probably don't have to wonder who they're going to go hire for everything. All of that that pre-production stuff is probably already done. You know, like most of the time that anybody spends on producing a movie these days is all in post, anyways, editing and the digital effects and all that. And for as big of a cast and as many, there's a lot of big names in that movie. But as big as it is, it's a pretty desolate environment and scene. You know, you're not necessarily working with too many people on set at one time, like actor wise, at least, you know, and you're out in deserts or in front of green screens and stuff. And
I'm sure there are some completed scenes for this one already filmed properly. It's just now they gotta, go and fill all the blanks.
Yeah, especially dealing with like a premise that involves being able to see forward and backwards into potential time.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing it.
Have you had a chance to see the first one yet?
No.
Oh, you still have it to look forward to, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll
check it out.
All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it for tonight. Yep, they're nodding. So that's pretty much it for tonight. So I do want to say thank you to all the people that are subscribed to the channel and all the channel members. Let me put them up on the forefront here because that's part of it.
Just do like a credit roll.
I don't know how to do that. Dude, that's actually a good idea. I could do that now that you mention it because Canva, I could do that on Canva.
There you go.
That would be a decent way to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure that out. I'll just hit up E-Man like, hey, can you
Ryan, where's your name on here?
It requires redoing it so many different times because when someone else joins and stuff like that. Okay. Ryan is on the left-hand side toward the middle.
Okay.
No.
I was looking for Cosmic Campfire.
I don't think he's Cosmic Campfire anymore. Everything's under new guy.
Okay. Yeah. We're going retro.
You got retconned.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, everything he does on his other social media platforms is under new guy, and that's where he's most active right now. But yeah, thank you to all the channel members, and be sure to keep up and watch on the channel. I'm going to, especially on the Instagram, I'm going to be posting the books that'll be included in this month's giveaway box, and they are fire. Big Time Collectibles super duper came through. So big thank you to Big Time Collectibles. Them and Justin Comics, the channel sponsors, are linked in the description to each video. So if you need books pressed or clean, hit up Justin. He sends me stuff all the time, what he's working on. He's doing some awesome work over there. And I definitely want to give a big shout out to Paul and Donna at the Augusta Book Exchange, where I get all my new Comic Book Day books. They are the keepers of my comics, the guardians of my pool box. They make sure everything I'm looking for is safe and secure every week when I get there. If you're ever in Augusta, be sure to stop by there, tell them what's up, and let them know that we are Legion. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. I got a fun video dropping tomorrow, and we will see you in the chats. Until next time, we are Legion.